The Middle East is also reacting tonight to the unanimous vote by the UN Security Council overnight, which condemned Israel for the killing of at least 19 Palestinian protesters in Jerusalem. The Council also called for a UN investigation of the incident. The United States backed the resolution, not wanting to alienate Arab allies in the Gulf crisis. The fact that the harsh resolution was fully expected in Israel did not make it go down any easier. Bill McLaughlin in Tel Aviv reports.
Israelis and Palestinians alike have been expecting the UN to condemn the killings of some 20 Arabs in Jerusalem last Monday by Israeli police. Now that it's finally come, no one is happy.
The life and the human rights of the Palestinians are in danger and under threat. This resolution does not give them protection.
There was no need whatsoever for that kind of condemnation from the United Nations, which plays right into the hands of Saddam Hussein.
Washington's decision to back the vote against Israel has caused some bitterness here, although it's recognized the Bush administration had little choice.
I don't think it will affect U.S.-Israeli relations, though I must add that we are disappointed by the stand taken by the United States.
Israelis and Americans now share a common nightmare, that Saddam Hussein may try to encourage even more violence to destroy the U.S.-led alliance ranged against him.
If the Intifada explodes, the Intifada may take the headlines, which will make it much more difficult for countries like Syria and Egypt to be in an anti-Iraqi coalition.
Sources say Washington has asked Israel to do its best to keep the lid on the Intifada and as gently as possible. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
For many Palestinians, even a Security Council resolution that condemns Israel does not carry much weight. They still count on Iraq's Saddam Hussein to help their cause. Betsy Aaron now with that story.
In a Palestinian coffee shop in Amman this morning, the UN vote was dismissed with a shrug.
For us, it's just the same. We are very angry, but we know that this is not going to go forever. Saddam Hussein is going to stop it and do something about it.
World leaders may debate the linkage between the Gulf crisis and the fate of the Palestinians, but there is no debate here. The Palestinians have found a new hero, and Saddam Hussein has embraced their cause. Yasser Arafat travels to Baghdad for meetings with Saddam. The PLO is telling everyone it's trying to negotiate a Middle East peace. In a Palestinian refugee camp, a family listens to the news from Jerusalem. There are tears, there is frustration. These people do not look to the UN for answers. On the streets and in the rallies, the leaders tell their followers to arm themselves. And there are so many young men preparing to fight. Betsy Aaron, CBS News, Amman.
At the center of the Persian Gulf crisis is the ultimate control of oil, but Israel and the Palestinians are at odds these days over a more precious liquid. Martha Teichner has that.
Palestinian children steal water from a vandalized Israeli supply pipe. The incident soon turns into a political confrontation. Before the Gulf crisis, it was often said that the next Middle East war would be fought over water. A dangerously worsening shortage of water is the hidden but explosive component in the Arab-Israeli conflict.
This is the Jordan Valley, backbone not only of Israeli agriculture but Palestinian as well. Here, the politics of water is viewed as a question of survival.
When somebody takes your water from you, he's killing you.
At the farm near Jericho, owned by Saeb Erekat family, the land is drying up. The source of well water for the farm is rainfall from the West Bank. Land and water Palestinians consider to be theirs, that is controlled by the Israelis.
We're totally dependent on their mercy, actually, right now. I mean, they're the ones who hold all the strings.
Nearby, lush, green Israeli settlements, most with swimming pools. The Israelis allot themselves nearly 10 times the water they permit the Palestinians, and make no apologies.
It's nothing more than logical self-survival if you allocate to yourself rather than to those who are your sworn enemies.
But several years of drought have forced Israel to cut its own consumption for agriculture nearly 30% this year. Water is one of the underlying issues in the peace process, a key reason why Israel refuses to give up the occupied territories in a settlement with the Palestinians. Hydrology rather than ideology, according to one official. The crisis is aggravated by hundreds of thousands of Soviet Jewish immigrants, further taxing Israel's diminishing water supply. But water is a regional problem, as severe across the border in Jordan as it is in Israel, a source of regional tension as well, with any hope of a regional solution postponed by the Gulf crisis.
And even if it seems not reasonable in 1990 or 1991, it should be reasonable 5 or 10 years later, because we need it and they need it.
The Sea of Galilee supplies a third of Israel's drinking water. Its level is the lowest ever recorded, nearly 12 feet below normal. Good rain this winter would help, but it would only buy time, not solve the problem. Martha Teichner, CBS News, at the Sea of Galilee.